everyone, welcome to another episode of Project Analysis, and today we're going to do Parktown Residence, and this is located at Tampines. So I'm sure pretty much most of you would have known about this project, especially for those people who stay around Tampines, which is also happened to be my home ground. So in Tampines area, this will be the first integrated development with a transport hub connected to it, and for east side alone, we don't really have much integrated development. One would be Bedok Residence, where we have Bedok Mall, and the other one would be upcoming Pasir Ris 8 condo, which the mall has already opened. So today what we're going to do will be digging deep into the prices and analyzing Parktown Residence price strategy by the developer, and see that with such pricing, what type of unit are we going to aim for and whether it is the right unit for yourself. Because to be honest, when I was studying the whole development, right, I realized there were so many floor plans to choose from. So as a buyer yourself, when you receive the brochure, right, definitely you'll be so, you don't know what to choose, you'll be so confused. And today with this video, I hope it will help you to understand Parktown better to make a more wise and informed decision. So now we are going to run through the prices that we've been hearing more about on the street. So last time when I visited, I think a few weeks back when I visited Tampines, I heard some of my clients asking me, Claudia, is it true that Parktown is going to be launched at 2005? Honestly, to be frank, I don't think it will be launched so high, because even with the current EOK and Nava Grove, right, we see that they are already considered 2.5 to 2.7 PSF. So Parktown being in the OCR area where we have like other areas like the outskirts such as Jurong, Woodlands, I don't think we'll be looking at this kind of high prices. And also later on when you see the floor plan, you'll realize that they're actually quite big in terms of their floor size. So given that if their PSF starts from 2005, higher units will be looking at 2007 PSF, and when you multiply that with the floor area size, right, the quantum will be actually quite big, and I don't think it will be very receptive for the people in Tampines area. So later on we'll discuss more on that, and without further ado, let's move on to the project itself. Parktown Residences will be previewing from 7th Feb onwards, and booking date will be on the 22nd of February. And this coincides with ELTA in Clementi. So I'm pretty sure most of the buyers that will be viewing ELTA will also be looking at Parktown Residence. And on 22nd Feb, when this project is launched, we will also be looking at Lentor Central and Oriel, which will be starting their preview date. So all in all, we realized that developers are actually launching like what they did in November, where we had EOK, Nava Grove, and all the other projects all coming in together. So it is definitely a good chance for buyers who are looking to buy something, because developers were not there to, increase price too much or selling them at very high prices, because they want to grab hold of the buyers out there in the market. So now we have the artist impression of Parktown Residence. Over here you can see this is the mall area below, and over here it is where the residential blocks are. So this is within the condo compound. Next, let's move on to Parktown Residence as we speak about it as an integrated development. So what do we have in this integrated development? We'll be having the Parktown Mall, where we'll hold all the retail malls, followed by the transport hub, where we will see the MRT as well as air-conditioned bus interchange, followed by all the community center and also a hawker center. So if you ask me, right, is integrated development something that you can consider? Well, to me, as you can see from this slide, right, it is actually very, very rare to have an integrated development in Singapore with a transport hub to it. So in Singapore itself, we have a total of 9 transport hubs with residential, which is an integrated development, and Parktown will be the 9th one. Okay, and in the east itself, as mentioned earlier, right, we only have Pasir Ris 8 as well as Bedok Residences. So just to have a comparison and have a sensing of how big this project is, right, over here we have Parktown Residences and Parktown Mall, and we see that the land size is 50,000 square meter, which is comparable to, can I say, North Park Residences and North Point Mall itself. North Point City, if you have been to North Point, actually for me, right, I seldom visit Yishun site, and when I do meet my clients over there, I will need to go at least 10 to 15 minutes earlier to find my way there, because it gets so confusing in the mall itself. I think there's like 2 wings inside. So for me, I feel that North Point is actually a very, very big mall, and in comparison with North Point, Parktown is definitely much smaller. So if you want to ask me something that's comparable to Parktown, would be Sengkang Grand Mall. Sengkang Grand Mall is above Buangkok MRT station, and I've been there quite a few times. Not really a very, very big mall, but it has all the necessity that will serve the community around in that area. And also, if you compare to Vivo City, right, actually North Point and Vivo is quite similar in terms of their size, but all the other developments over here, They're actually much smaller, but definitely enough for the community in that area, like what I've said earlier. But if you ask me, is integrated development, does it mean that it will be a good project to buy into for investment? I think definitely there will be some benefits of buying integrated. Firstly, like what I say, is very rare. There's only 9 in Singapore. Secondly, I think if you have been or if you have seen the transaction and also the profitability of some of these projects I've laid over here, you will see that Woodley actually made quite a fair sum of profits. And also in North Point City alone, right, I would say this is a rather successful project, because if you're familiar with the Yishun area projects, you'll know that their transaction don't really appreciate that fast and that much. But for North Park residents themselves, right, they actually appreciate quite a lot over the short span of time. So it really behaves very differently from all the other Yishun projects. So if Parktown is something that you think you want to consider, I think in terms of profitability wise, right, in the area, we will see some benefits and appreciation, just like Treasure at Tampines. But Treasure at Tampines is just a residential development. For this, it is an integrated. So now let's move on to the project info itself. Over here, we can see that Parktown residence has a total of 1,193 units, and expected TOP would be somewhere in 2030 on paper, but it might TOP earlier, so maybe 2029. But it's very common that integrated developments usually needs about 5 years to TOP, because there's many components that they need to check to go through, such as the bus interchange, the malls, the CCN, everything has to come together before they can officially say that this project TOPs. But usually within 1 to 1.5 years before the TOP of the project itself, the retail mall will start to open first, just like in Pasir Ris 8 themselves. The mall actually opened like 1 year before, and I think the owners there haven't really collected keys yet, but I think it will be really soon now. The reason why retail malls has to be open soon is because they are actually income generating source for the developer themselves, and the developers are the one who will be running all the retails and managing all the tenants in the project itself. Now let's move on to the developers of this project, and we have Capital Land, UOL, as well as Singapore Land. So Capital Land, as you guys are very familiar, they are very famous for building malls and managing them, such as Raffles City as well as Ion Orchard. So if you're an auntie like me, I like to collect points, so Capital Land is something that you definitely will know. And secondly, for UOL, they are very famous for top-notch finishing, and they have done many joint ventures with Singapore Land, such as Project Pine Tree Hill, as well as Avenue South Residences. They are very, very iconic projects that are in the RCR area of Singapore. And also for Singapore Land themselves, they have done Wharton House as well as Mayor Blue. Now let's move on to the location, site plan, unit distribution, as well as unit mix of Parktown residents. So over here you can see, right, Parktown residence is actually located at Tampines Avenue 1, where the upcoming Tampines North MRT station would be. And currently there's a temporary interchange over here, which will probably be changed into something else later, which I'll show you. If you're familiar with Tampines side, right, you know there's these 3 giant malls over here, the Courts Mega Store, IKEA, and Giant. So staying in Parktown itself, not only do you have your own groceries there, if you want to head over to these mega stores, definitely it's within short distance only. And also, if you take a look at the schools around, I think we don't really have any problem with enrolling your children into a Tampines area schools, because we have really a lot of schools in the area. Okay, so let's now take a look at this map where I've drawn out some of the potential buyers who will buy from you next time when you intend to sell Parktown residence. So over here, we have 2 ECs that will MOP around 2032, where our project will be around 2 years old. ECs, as you know, generally make quite a huge profit when they MOP. So definitely, whether it's easy for them to upgrade from an EC to a condo, it'll be much more easier for them as compared to the BTOs. But I would say that BTOs also make a lot of money, especially in the Tampines North side, right? We do see a lot of upcoming BTOs or existing BTOs that are going to MOP soon. Like currently, we have Tampines Greenview, Greenweave, and Tampines Green Regis. All this already MOP. So definitely, if let's say in 5 years' time they intend to sell their house, this is something that they could potentially look into, especially for the convenience as it is an integrated development. Also, I would say most of the ECs as well as the BTO people, right, they usually want to have convenience because they have children, so they want to have bigger space, they want to have the accessibility to go to groceries or go to shopping malls and retail shops to buy things for their kids and their family. So being in an integrated development definitely will benefit them and be more attractive to them. So next we'll talk about the site plan. Site plan itself, as you can see, is rather confusing in terms of, okay, let me just break this down. For the site plan at Parktown, right, it is split into two sections. One is Park East over here and the other is Park West. So if you were to ask me, right, in terms of pricing wise, where would be the premium be loaded on? I would definitely think that it would be the inward facing one for both the Park West as well as Park East. Why is this so? Is because when you're facing inside, right, generally you're facing the pool, and in terms of sound wise, you will not hear so much of the sounds from the outside as compared to all the other facing, like facing outwards here, right? What we will be looking at would be existing HDBs or potential HDBs, because there are empty plots of land which are zoned for future residential, but we don't know when exactly they will be launched or when they will be built. So probably when you get your keys at time in 5 years down the road, you might face a situation where when you go and buy the project, it's an empty plot of land. But after it TOPs and you collect keys, they are starting to build your foundation. So when this happens, right, it will actually cause a lot of headache issues, because when you want to sell to people in the future, definitely when the resale buyer come and take a look, right, they won't be so receptive for this kind of views where they see like there's construction in front, there's so much dust and dirt. So this will be something that they might not really like so much, and they would rather go for inner facing kind of unit. So either that you hold and you stay for that period of time where they're building, or you have to sell at a lower price. So that will be an issue. So in terms of pricing wise, right, I would definitely think that the inward facing Park East will be the most expensive stacks. Why is this so? Is because the distance to distance for the units, right, is actually quite far. So when it's far, right, you kind of have like a very good view, and you will not have, you have more privacy in terms of like seeing your neighbors from opposite and all, as compared to Park East. Those that are facing inwards actually generally has a shorter distance compared to Park East side. And next, followed by the outer facing units over here. Like what I mentioned earlier, right, they will either be looking at existing HDB or empty plots of land, which I will share with you later in the next slide, which I have superimposed, or rather, let's go and take a look at it now. Okay, so I have superimposed the site plan onto this map itself. So if you take a look, right, currently there are a few future residential plots around, future school, future residential development, all these are future residential lah. So if you ask me, for OCR project, right, like outskirts in Jurong and Tampines area, the premium will be for the inside facing. Because you see outside, not really much view, you're just facing all the HDBs and all, or future plots of land. But for more premium projects or like core central projects, right, the premium will actually be on the outside facing, usually for the higher floors or high-rise building, where they can have unblocked view of Singapore. So that's where the difference is for OCR project as well as CCR project, or even RCR project themselves. So today, if you want to buy into Parktown, right, the premium will definitely be more of the inside pool facing, and outside will be the less premium stacks. So if you ask me, right, if buying here, although now you are looking into the future residential development, who knows, in 3 to 5 years time, maybe they might be building a new HDB or even a new condo. So this is not something that you want. But if the price point is okay, then you might want to consider that as well. Lastly, we have all these stacks over here, which are inward facing, but facing the linkway of the mall. So you can see that the gap between, the distance between these two stacks, right, are actually quite close, meaning that you're more likely to see your neighbors and less privacy. Okay, so let's move on. So I will not dive too much into this detail, but this is where the mall itself will be. The bus interchange will be here, hawker center and CC, and also a plaza. So all this will be shared in details at the SHOWFLAT itself. Now we have the distribution chart. I know it's very confusing, so please don't mind. We will share more with you on this at the SHOWFLAT as well. Okay, in terms of unit mix, right, you can see that over here, it's quite shocking to realize that actually majority of the units are actually the smaller units, which takes up 55%. So we have no one bedder over here. The smallest is 1 plus study and it takes up of about 6% and the rest goes to 2 bedder. So if you're an investor or looking to start a small family and thinking of buying a 2 bedder in Parktown, this will be a headache for you because you don't know which unit to select because there are so many floor plans to choose from. So definitely engage a good agent that's able to advise you properly as to which floor plan, which facing, whether it's worth to pay the premium to get a better facing. These are the homework that your agent needs to do for you. If you do need assistance, do reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to help you with this. And next, we have about 34% of 3 bedders because we know that there's a lot of HDB upgraders in the Tampines side, which I've shared with you earlier. And lastly, for the 4 and 5 bedder makes up about 11%. So one thing that you can see from this unit mix and unit mix itself, right, is that the sizes over here are typically quite big. Do remember that Parktown Residence is a post-harmonized project. So these are the typical pre-harmonized project size, which means that today, excluding the aircon ledge, right, you're already getting 506 square feet for the 1 plus study, which is a typical pre-harmonized size for a 1 plus study. Okay? And that is why we are saying that we don't think the prices for Parktown will be launched too high because of their big sizes. And recently there are a lot of launches and all the launches that come out all do very well, like 70 to 80%. I think that's the norm for today, right? So definitely Parktown would wish that they can continue this tradition that is going on now and follow the trend that they will do well, and they cannot be selling at 2005 because if now they sell at 2005 and you multiply by these big sizes for the units, right, the quantum is going to be super high, and I don't think it is very acceptable for the Tampines people over there. Recently we do see a change in how developers strategize their price strategy. It's either, number one, they follow a guided quantum size. They're more quantum sensitive, and because quantum is fixed, right, and the size is bigger, PSF will tend to be lower and more attractive for the buyers. Or number two, they will either go for a PSF scheme, which means that they base on a fixed PSF, but that would mean that multiplying by the size of the unit, we are going to get a big quantum, which in turn is not a very good thing because buyers might not be receptive to that. So definitely developers have to price the unit very, very attractively in order to attract all these buyers coming down to Parktown. Okay, so now let's use the next project to actually gauge and try to figure out what is the price strategy of UOL, which is also one of the developer in Parktown. And with that, after we have formulated their pricing strategy, we'll use that to apply to Parktown. Of course, all these pricing are not the actual prices, and I don't represent the developer or even my company, and all these pricing and strategies that I'm sharing are just purely based on my opinion. And yeah, let's continue. Okay, so as mentioned earlier, this is the unit. This is the site plan of Botanic at Bartley. So similarly to Parktown, right, we have the pool-facing and road-facing units. So over here, for stack 43 and 36, right, they are both pool-facing. And over here, stack 29 is road-facing. So later we'll draw out the prices of the transacted units and compare their lowest floor and highest floor transaction. So the lowest unit in Botanic at Bartley, right, is actually level 2, and the highest floor is 17. So for a road-facing unit at level 2, which is 0229, right, we compare to a pool-facing 0236, we can see that there was a premium of 4% being loaded, and this is how we calculate the price, okay? And followed by comparing to the other stack, which is stack 43, 0243, we see a price difference of 4.5%. So for the highest floor, does it work the same way? For 1729, which is road-facing, compared to 1736, which is a pool-facing unit, right, we do see a difference of 5.2%. Compared to 1743 versus 1729, which is also a pool-facing versus road-facing, it is a difference of 5.8. So if you see over here, right, we can conclude that the difference between the lowest floor and the highest floor do act in a certain way in terms of their pricing, where the difference between a road-facing versus a pool-facing is about 4.5% to 5.8% for a road versus pool-facing view. Okay, so next we'll move on to low floor to high floor. Let's just take a look at the 2-bedder that I've drawn out at 732 square feet. What are the difference in terms of their pricing? So for 0229, right, which is a road-facing unit versus a 1729 unit, which is also a road-facing unit, you can see that the price difference from lowest floor to the highest floor is about 6.8% jump, which equivalent to about $4,066 jump per level. And per level means it's about 0.46% lah. And for pool facing itself, right, from level 2 to level 17, we do see a price difference of about 8.2%. and a per floor jump of about $5,000, which is about 0.55%. So we can see that the average for a low floor to a high floor in terms of their jump, right, is about 8% over here. Let's take it on the higher side, so at least you can prepare yourself to ensure that you have the right purchasing power to afford a high floor unit in terms of the calculation. So with this, right, we can easily predict the price of the unit that we want based on this matrix. Let's say the starting from price of a road-facing unit, you know already, developer usually will release like during the preview period, like the starting from price for a unit, a certain unit type is most likely the cheapest unit, which is the outside-facing one lah. So with that price, you know, right, if let's say you want to buy the highest floor of a pool-facing, what we do is we will add roughly about 6% over here, right, because road facing versus pool facing, about 6% difference. So 6% plus and 8% in terms of the jump over here, right, from lowest to highest floor. We can see that with the price released by the developer, by adding a 14% to this price, we can actually get a pool-facing highest floor unit. To be safe, we can just add 15%. So with this matrix, right, it's actually very easy for us to estimate the price if let's say you want to go for a higher floor, or if let's say your queue number is not very good and you might need to look at a higher floor, is it within your budget? Because this is very important. If let's say on the day itself, your queue number is not very good and you cannot afford any of the unit that you want, that you would have wanted to buy, right, then it's either you have to consider to upgrade or downgrade to a lower size. Okay, so our price prediction, as mentioned earlier, same unit type, premium between the lowest floor and the highest floor of the premium facing, right, is approximately 13 to 15%. So with this, it's very easy for you to calculate. So now we move on to the layout for Parktown residents. One thing different that we're doing for this analysis today, right, is that we're not going to start from 1 to 5, but we're going to start from 5 bedroom all the way down to 1 plus study. Why is this so? Is because I want to show you how we actually analyze the prices and deduce that it will most likely not be launched at 2005, but at a much lower PSF. So let's go. So for 5 bedroom analysis, right, there's only one layout, is the 5 bedroom premium. As you can see over here is the type E1 and E1P. And the size is 1,679 square feet. And total of 2 stacks, you see over here, stack 67 and stack 100. And they're both internal facing. So over here is a very typical and very good size 5-bedder. One thing that I noticed is that recently the 5-bedders don't really have much private lift. Maybe in this area they don't really like, or they don't really need a private lift, they just need the bigger size. So developers also build according to the demand in the area. So frontage of the living and dining distance, all very healthy and very big balcony for the family themselves. And also the kitchen is also very big. And there's a yard and WC and home storage. One thing I don't really like about this layout, right, is that the dining is directly in front of the door over here. So it's a bit of an inconvenience for the people who are entering into the kitchen lah. So all bedrooms are at one corner, except for the junior master bed over here. But other than that, I think they have all they need for a 5-bedder. And all the rooms are also very, very good. But one thing you really need to take note, and I really, really like about this 5-bedder, is that they have a designated walk-in wardrobe lah. And yeah, all the toilets have window except for this common toilet lah. The junior master has one over here, and the master has one. Okay, so also something to take note is the RC ledge over here. If you take a look at the price matrix over here, right, what we predict is that prices might start as low as 1,009 PSF. Why is this so? If let's say we were to multiply by 30%, right, we are looking at 2,002 PSF, and that would mean that the 5-bedder would be about 3.7 mil. And for 3.7 mil for the profiles over here in Tampines, I think it's a quantum that's quite hard to accept. So we are looking more towards a lower quantum so that people will be more receptive to buying it. And that's why we've concluded and we're given a matrix as in, if let's say if we were to launch at 2002 PSF, it will be close to 3.7, and if lower by one tier, 2.1 PSF, it will be 3.5 mil, and also as low as 1.9, which we think is a comfortable range for the people at Tampines to buy over a 5-bedder here in Parktown. Okay, so now let's move on to the 4-bedroom analysis. We do have a few floor plans, so do bear with me. So for the first one, right, that we'll be comparing is the D1 and D2, which are both 1,335 square feet in terms of their size. So for D1, right, the only difference in terms of their layout is, for this is D1, and over here is D2. So I put them side by side for you to compare. Both are of the same size as mentioned earlier. The only main difference that we can see over here, right, is actually the entrance way. They are slightly different. For here is directly enter, but this one has a slight bend and a bit of more privacy lah. But for both units, they are very similar in terms of the other elements, such as the kitchen has a glass panel over here, which is very good because definitely this will be more preferred for own stay people, because you don't need to on the light, and light can enter from the balcony and enter into the kitchen lah, so it makes your house more bright. And one thing to take note is that this very interesting thing is the WC actually has a window lah. So even your helper has a WC that has a window to ventilate, and also is very good lah. Living area, the wall-to-wall distance is actually very, very healthy as well. And we can see that commonly most of the rooms are tucked at one side facing with a full-fledged window, and only bedroom 4 is over here with a half window lah. Okay? Similarly to D2 layout, the only difference is the foyer lah. So now let's move on to the price prediction for 4-bedder. So as mentioned earlier, if let's say we were to predict that 5-bedder would start from 1,009, as low as 1,009, right? 4-bedder usually is a bit higher in terms of their PSF. So let's use 2,000 PSF as a gauge. So as mentioned earlier, we'll be giving you more of a matrix kind of comparison. So as to know, like if let's say today we are looking at about 2,002 PSF, we're looking at close to 2.9 to buy a 4-bedder in Parktown itself. Next, we'll be looking and comparing the D3 and D4 size. So this is the D3 layout, which is 1,345 square feet, and it is only one stack and pool facing, total of only 12 units. And this is 1,356 square feet D4 layout, also one stack and pool facing with a total of 12 units. So let's put it side by side to compare again. If you realize that their floor plan, right, most of the different layouts only differ mostly in the entrance foyer. So over here we have a shorter entrance foyer, the shorter curve into the unit. As for here, we have a longer entrance before we hit the unit itself. So similarly to the D1 and D2 layout, right, they both have glass panels for their window, which makes the kitchen very bright. And also one thing to take note, and is more special in terms of the 4-bedroom compact series, right, is that for D4 itself, they have kind of like a walk-in wardrobe, which is something special lah. So it's not common in the 4-bedders over there. So let's say in the future, when you were to sell it to potential future buyers, right, they come into your unit and they see something like this, they'll feel that your unit is more special and more memorable to them when they want to buy. So in terms of price matrix, we have also used the similar PSF gauge 2000, 2001, 2002 and 2003 to list out the price. So you can take a look at the prices over here for D3 and D4 sizes. Next, let's move on to the 4-bedder premium analysis. So over here, we have two layouts, and it's the DP1 and DP2. In terms of size, DP1 is 1,485 square feet and DP2 is 1,496. Just slightly different in terms of their foyer entrance lah. So that's where the size difference goes to. In terms of their kitchen-wise, it's not similar to the 4-bedder compact sizes, because you see they don't have the glass, they have just an entrance over here. So I don't really like this part of the kitchen concept, because you don't feel that the house is so much bigger as compared to the D1 and D2 layout. So anything else that's different that I see, not really. I just feel it's a very typical size that will be very good for the upgraders in Tampines area. So let's take a look at the pricing. For the 4-bedroom premium, we also use a starting PSF of about 2,000 PSF to gauge all the way up to 2,003 PSF. So we are looking at about 2.97 mil starting from to about 3.44 starting from. And to conclude our best choice for the 4-bedder series, right, if you ask me, definitely it will be D4. And why is this so? Is because remember I mentioned about the walk-in wardrobe over here. This will definitely be the standout criteria that the future resale buyers will look into, because it's the only layout that has a walk-in wardrobe, which other units don't have. And I think with this little bend in the corner, right, it gives more privacy for your unit itself as compared to the D1, where it was a direct access or direct view when you enter into the unit. So definitely this will be more premium and preferred, especially with this glass panels over here, which will make the house look a bit bigger when you enter into the unit, and the kitchen brighter, and you don't really need to on the light because natural light source will come in from here. Okay, and followed by D2, which is the 1,335 square feet unit. And lastly, there will not be a third choice for the 4-bedder series, because I feel that to a certain point, the units will go to a price where it will hit the starting price of a 5-bedder. And if it's until your turn, right, for the queue number to select your unit, if it has hit a certain amount that is the same price as a low floor 5-bedder, right, I'd rather you go for a 5-bedder, because with the same quantum, you get an extra room. Why not, right? Next, let's take a look at the 3-bedroom analysis. Also similar to the 4-bedroom case, right, there are a lot of floor plans for 3-bedroom, but do note that the only difference mainly comes from the foyer size. So let's head on. So over here we have C1 and type C2. One is 926 square feet and the other is 936 square feet. Only a difference of 10 square feet. And if you take a look at the both floor plans side by side, right, the most obvious thing that you'll notice is that one is a dumbbell layout, which is the C1, which is a good thing, and some people might like it because it's more space efficient. And also this actually has more privacy for the person who is staying in bedroom 2. Let's say if you have your parents over, maybe they want to stay over at this room, give them more privacy as compared to over here. There is also a small glass panel over here, which I think technically doesn't really help much in terms of allowing more light into the unit, because this part should be the glass if you want to have more light, right? Kitchen size, I think it is very good, tucked into one corner. And yeah, for the other unit, right, C2 layout, the main difference is that the kitchen has a has window, which is very good because light will enter through this window, and you don't need to on the light during the daytime to cook because there's natural sunlight. And another thing is that the bathroom too, right, has a window in the toilet as compared to this bathroom, which does not have window in the toilet. And lastly, even the master, which usually has a window, right, is not seen in type C1. So if you ask me which is more preferred out of these two units, right, definitely if my queue number is good, I will go for C2, the one that's 936, mainly because of the windows in this area, which I think is very important for own stay units, because we definitely need ventilation and natural sunlight. So based on the previous pricing, right, we map out that 5-bedder would probably start from 1,009 PSF, 4-bedder about 2,001 PSF, and now we're looking at the 3-bedder, which is slightly above the 4-bedder pricing, which is about starting from maybe 2,150 all the way to 2,450. So this is the price matrix that we are gauging for the 3-bedder in Parktown. And if you ask me, right, if you want to buy for investment or even for own stay, if your queue number is good, definitely go for C2, which ticks all the criteria that own stay owners would want. But if let's say your queue number is not very good and budget wise it's a bit of a constraint, then the next thing that you can look at is also C1 over here, which I think is also a good choice because of the space efficiency due to the dumbbell layout. Next, we have 3 more floor plans for the 3-bedroom series, which are all similar in size, which is 947 square feet. Only difference is that they are facing as well as the number of stacks that they have. So the most common unit type here, right, is type C4 with a total of 4 stacks as compared to type C3 and C5, which have only 2 and 1 stack respectively. So in terms of floor plan, mainly all the rooms are the traditional tucked to one side layout, all have full-fledged window, and also the kitchen has window as well. Only main difference is the entrance. This is direct in looking into the unit, which does not have much of a privacy, whereas this one has a smaller bend here, which have a bit of a privacy similar to this unit over here. So starting from prices for this 947 square feet unit 3-bedder, we are looking at 2.036 million all the way to 2.32 starting from price based on this price matrix. So our number one choice selection for the 3-bedroom series in the compact size, right, would definitely be the C2 because they have all the necessary windows that they need, and in terms of quantum and entry price, is definitely more affordable as compared to type C3 to C5, which is slightly bigger. So this is definitely our top choice, followed by stack C1, which is of a lower quantum if you are looking to buy for an investment. Own stay, probably you are looking more towards the 3-bedroom premium onwards. So let's move on to the 3-bedroom analysis. So next we'll look into the 3-bedroom premium units. Basically we only have two sizes. The first one would be 1066 square feet, and total we have 3 layouts, which is CP1, CP2 and CP3. And in terms of their facing, there are some that are internal facing and some are external facing. Main difference as usual is just the foyer, the entrance of the unit itself. This one is the most different one out of all these 3 types because of the facing of the door. So rooms are all as usual one side where they have the full-fledged window, and all have the home storage, which I think is very essential for homeowners and own stayers in this area. And we have a sizable yard area with window for all units. One thing to take note is also the aircon ledge over here. So starting from price, based on our price matrix, is about 2.29 mil all the way to 2.558. Okay, next we have the 1076 square feet unit for the 3-bed premium. The only difference that I would say here is the long walkway over here, which gives them more privacy, which some of my clients actually do prefer this kind of layout because over here you can still put your cabinets and some storage, which they think is quite useful to be honest, if you're going to stay in this unit. Yep. Starting from price will be 2.31 all the way to 2.58 million in terms of our price matrix estimation. Next, we'll go into the 3-bedroom premium plus study. So over here, right, we have 2 layouts that are the same size at 1,163 square feet. Usually when it comes to something plus study, like 2 plus study or 3 plus study, right, I don't really want to pay for the study because sometimes I will feel that the study space, right, is not really very usable. I do have a few clients that turn their study area into a storage area. But for the units over here, right, I think it's very well planned, and for their layout is because the study, if you take note, is just next to the master bed. So what this essentially means is that you can actually hack this wall away and make your room even bigger. And you can change your door to put over here. So that essentially makes your room into a bigger room where you can use the study as like a walk-in wardrobe space, or you can use for your personal using. So this is very well thought out. And other than that, I think very similarly, they don't have much to talk about. It's the very typical 3-bedroom layout. Yeah, and in terms of their pricing wise, we are looking at about 2.38 million all the way to 2.791 million, which I think at this pricing, right, if they were to launch at 2.79, you might want to cut yourself off from buying a 3 plus study in this area, because this is a price where you can consider into buying into a compact 4-bedder in Parktown itself. So ultimately, it all boils down to what is your queue number and whether it's worth to invest into or buy into a unit that is priced at 2.79 for a 3 plus study, or consider getting another bed at the same quantum but at a lower floor. Yep, so for the last 3-bedroom premium, we are looking at this unit, 3PS3 at 1,173 square feet, and nothing much to talk about because there's only one unit of this. Okay, so for the 3-bedroom premium plus study, right, there are still a few other layouts, but because of time constraint, right, I won't be going too much into it, because in terms of their layout, it's quite similar, but size-wise, it's just a bit bigger. So if you're interested to buy into a 3 plus study in Parktown, do contact me and I'll share more information with you. So now let's move on to the 2-bedroom analysis. Over here, we have the 2-bed 1-bath, which is all 592 square feet, and we have type B1, B2, and B3. As you can see, all 3 layouts are dumbbell. We have the left and right unit, and also the main difference is also just the entranceway. Other than that, toilet has no window for all 3 units. So in terms of their pricing, right, we will gauge the price to be about 2.25 PSS starting from. So we are looking at about 1.33 mil all the way to 1.539 mil for the starting from prices based on this matrix. Next, let's look at the 2-bedroom premium, which is equivalent to a 2-bed 2-bath. So over here, we have 4 different types altogether, which is the BP1, BP2, BP3, BP4. And the majority of the units here, right, if you take a look, BP1 has the most number of stacks. So one thing that I like is that all the kitchens are tucked into one corner, although they do not have windows for all the units over here lah. And all the bathroom do not have windows as well. Starting from prices based on the price matrix is about 1.45 mil onwards all the way to 1.728 mil. And lastly, the only 2-bedroom premium that is different from the rest is type BP5, which I think is something that you should really consider if you're looking to buy something that is a bit different from the other stacks. Why is it so? If you do notice, for all the 2-bedroom premium over here, right, they are all dumbbell layout, and only BP5 is traditional layout where all the rooms are at one corner over here. So this will definitely stand out in the future if, let's say, you were to sell in the resale market, because as buyers in the future, when they come to look for a 2-bed, 2-bath, right, definitely they will see a lot of the different stacks and all of them are dumbbell layout. So if you're the only unit that is a traditional layout and it's out in the market, right, definitely it will leave a lasting impression to all of them. So one thing that you have to take note is that the size is 721 and we are looking at about 1.55 mil onwards all the way to 1.83 mil starting from price based on the matrix. So in terms of size, right, this is 678 and this is 721. So traditional layout is usually a bit bigger in terms of size because of the longer corridor way. But definitely I feel that it's something that you can consider if you're looking to buy for investment or even for own stay. So next we'll move on to the 2-bedroom premium plus study. Over here we have two different layouts, BPS1 and BPS2. And kitchen are all tucked into one corner. But like what I said earlier, they do not have windows in the kitchen, and the study area is tucked into the other side, which you can potentially convert into something else like a storeroom, which some of my clients do. And both are also dumbbell layout with very good sized rooms. So if you were to take a look at the pricing, we are looking at about 1.64 based on 2,150 PSF starting from, all the way to 1.948, which is about 2,550 PSF starting from, based on the price matrix. Okay, so now we're going to compare the rental for integrated versus a non-integrated development. So over here, right, if we were to take a look at Treasure at Tampines, which is the same area as Parktown Residence, but it is a non-integrated development, just TOP, I think last year, so it's relatively new in the estate, versus Bedok Residence, which is the nearest or most comparable integrated development that has been renting out their units for the past few years. So if we see, right, for a 2-bed, 2-bath in these two developments, for a non-integrated, average transaction is about 3,450, but for Bedok Residence, which is an integrated development, right, average transaction is about 4,350, which approximately is about $1,000 more. So we use this to predict for the integrated in Parktown, right? So let's say today Treasure at Tampines is renting out their 2-bed, 2-bath at $3,004. We are looking at collecting rental for Parktown in the future at $1,000 more, which is about $4,004. Next, we want to compare the rental yield for a 2-bed, 1-bath versus a 2-bed, 2-bath in Treasure at Tampines, because I do understand out there are a lot of buyers who are more receptive into buying 2-bed, 2-bath as compared to 2-bed, 1-bath, because they feel that 2-bed, 1-bath not easy to sell, and also ROI might be lower as compared to 2-bed, 2-bath. So I do hear you guys, but I did some analysis and did some research, and I realized that for the rental yield for both sizes, right, if you take a look at Treasure at Tampines 2-bed, 1-bath, average transaction is about 3,250, and for the 2-bed, 2-bath, it's about 3,500. In terms of their rental, I don't think it really differs that much, $250 difference in terms of average. So assuming Parktown Residence, right, at 2-bed, 1-bath, we are buying at the entry price of about 1.33 million, right, based on our previous analysis, and asking collecting a rental of $1,000 more, which is 4,250, right. Our rental yield will actually be 3.8. And versus a 2-bed, 2-bath, assuming we buy Parktown 2-bed, 2-bath at 1.525 million, based on the previous matrix that we have seen, at 4,005, which is 1,000 more than this, right, our rental yield is about 3.5. So do you think that the rental yield for 2 bed 1 bath and 2 bed 2 bath really differs a lot? I don't really think so if rental yield is your approach lah. But definitely you need to be warned that 2 bed 1 bath will take a bit of time or take longer time to sell. So if let's say you can go for 2 bed 2 bath based on your queue number and quantum wise and budget wise it matches, then definitely go for a 2 bed 2 bath. But if you ask me, if budget wise is a constraint, you don't want to stretch so much to go into a 2 bed 2 bath and you just want to adopt the rental yield approach, right, then definitely 2 bed 1 bath is something that you definitely want to consider as well. Okay, next let's take a look at Bedok residences, low floor versus high floor for integrated development. We are going to explain whether does buying low or buying high actually get a better rental yield for your integrated development. So at Bedok residences, right, for 2 bed 2 bath, level 5 was rented at 3,008 and level 14, which is a high floor, was rented at 4,003. So if we translate that into Parktown, right, if we buy low floor at level 2 at 1.525 as per our previous matrix, right, rental yield amounts up to be about 3%, which is not bad, to be honest. And if let's say we were to buy into a high floor 17 unit, right, at 1.64 based on the last matrix we calculated and based on 4,003 rental, we are looking at about 3.1% rental yield. So if you ask me whether high floor or low floor has better rental yield, based on this case study, right, actually it doesn't really matter. Rental yield are still good for both and comparable. But if you ask me, as an investment point of view, definitely buying low will be better because your down payment will be lower in terms of your quantum. So definitely it's easier for you to enter. But one thing to take note as usual, buying a lower floor always have the problem that, a potential problem that they might face, that is it'll take a bit longer for you all to sell in the future. Next, let's take a look at the low floor versus high floor ROI. If we were to take a look at Treasure at Tampines, right, a level 4 unit versus a level 10 unit, if you were to calculate the down payment put into the unit to purchase and also the profit that they gain, right, in selling the house, we realize that the low floor ROI amounts up to 116% compared to a high floor, which is only 86%. Why is this so? Is because level 4 unit, right, you realize they actually bought much cheaper as compared to the level 10 unit, right? But when they sold it at a higher price compared to the level 10 unit. So if you're looking into the ROI strategy, right, then definitely lower floor will be a much safer choice for you as an investor. Next, let's take a look at the 1 bedroom analysis. For 1 bedroom, we don't really have much to talk about because it's a 1+ study and there's only 2 layout. The biggest unit here is the 5061, which has many stacks and is a typical 1 bedroom that you see in the market currently. Kitchen along the corridor, and then there's a study that's usually between the master bedroom as well as the toilet, and toilet does not have a window. So this is just a very typical layout of a 1+ study. And if we were to look at the price matrix, right, there is another layout which is the 463, which I will show you later. But let's take a look and zoom in at the price first. Pricing over here starting from 2,250 PSF, because usually smaller units like 1 and 2 bedder are higher PSF, but the bigger units have lower PSF because of the size itself. So at 2,250 PSF, we are looking at entry price of about 1.04 to 1.138 for these 2 different unit size, all the way up to 1.2 to 1.3 for the 2006 PSF gauge if it were to be launched at 2006. But honestly, I don't really think, but there might be a possibility that it might be launched at 2006 lah. But all this will only be confirmed once developer release some of their prices for us and we will be able to gauge for you. So as mentioned earlier, the other 463 layout is like this, where the study is tucked into one corner and the entry is actually very, very small, to be honest. So I don't really like it, and also similar to this one lah. Compared to this one where the study has a bigger entrance, so it does not make the study look so claustrophobic, you know. Yep, so that's it. That's all we have for Parktown residents. Just a reminder that preview is probably going to start even before you see this video. So once you have actually viewed the SHOWFLAT and gotten your brochure, maybe you're very confused, you don't know what to select as to your choice unit, and you need someone to advise, right? Do reach out to me. I'll be more than willing to share with you all the contents that I've shared in this video in a more concise and curated plan for yourself. So preview period will be 7th of Feb and booking date will be on the 22nd of February, as similar to ELTA, which is in Clementi. So yeah, I do look forward to receiving your calls and inquiries in terms of Parktown or ELTA, and I'll see you in the next project analysis, which is Lentor Central Residence. And see ya! 恭喜发财!